1,
2,
3,
4. Welcome to episode 6 of the Hills Have Nerds. We're currently coming to you from inside a coffin in the abandoned mortuary, because this is the only place we could find to hide, and it's still out there.
You're using up all the air.
Shut up, Aaron.
Can I turn the flashlight on?
No. Cody, I genuinely thought it got you already.
We need it to blind the killer.
You can't be that lucky.
All right. All right. Again, welcome to episode 6 of the Hills Have Nerds. And today, if you couldn't tell by our intro, we're going to be covering something very close to my heart, near and dear to me, and I think a couple of the other guys here, horror in nerddom. We're going to try to do a little bit of a brief history of horror, both in literature, media, and not horror, as
Spooky stuff.
our accents sometimes make it sound like we're saying
Well, then you've
horror.
lied to everyone. You said something we're all interested in.
Covering horror.
Well, I'm no longer qualified to speak on this subject. Yeah, I think I'm a little more interested in the horror. The spooky.
Horror, scary stuff, spooky stuff.
I don't know. Horror might be pretty scary.
I mean, I've seen some pretty scary horror.
What if it's a horror?
Okay, we're done. We're done. You're a horror. Yeah, so we're going to do a brief history of that. Some of the tropes we like, some of the tropes we don't like. We're not going to get too deep into the woods, pun intended, about our favorite pieces of horror media, just because we want to try to do that in small installments over the month of October. This is going to be our October episode. So we want to try to provide a little bit more, and we'll be releasing this one hopefully a little bit earlier in October. I talked to Travis about doing some editing stuff on that, and then some little snippets of each of our individual favorite pieces of media throughout the month, just because it's Halloween month. It's spooky time.
I like spooky.
And that's a special time in nerddom. There's a lot of horror nerds out there, and so we wanna give you some more nerd stuff to get your nerd fix from.
The only one I know is spooky, scary skeletons.
Spooky, scary skeletons. Travis, put that song in right there.
spooky, scary skeletons.
We're just
Make it sound like we sung it.
yeah, make it sound like we did it. Auto tune. All right, but first, as we always do, what are we playing? What are we watching? What's going on? And Aaron, you want to start us off?
Remnant has consumed my life.
Remnant 2, right?
Yeah, Remnant 2. It has been fantastic. It is, as I've said, a Soulsborne, which is just a difficult game. After the Bloodborne and Demon Souls or Dark Souls series, what it's taken off of for being very difficult. But and it's just chock full of so many secrets. So many like hidden doors, and
You have to like unlock all the classes, right? Like to get different classes for your character, you have to do little special achievements and stuff in there.
The big one is the Archon class, and to do that, you have to have specific classes equipped, because you can have up to 2, and you have to have specific items. You have to go to a specific place, and you unlock this.
You have to wear it all at the same time, open the door, and you have 60 seconds to get through the maze.
Yeah, and the only way they found it was people data mined it, and the company actually intentionally made it that way.
Yeah.
They intentionally made it to where the only way to find it was they data mined, and they found a list of here's what you need to unlock this class.
One of the items you need for it, you have to do a
real quick,
dive.
Cody. For people that don't know what data mining is, and I guarantee, I know Sarah's probably won't know what that is, because she specifically asked. We have a listener who specifically asked us her name is Sarah, I'm not going to give her last name, asked us to explain the acronyms we use. And we try to. I do try to make a point of it. And you'll notice in some of the past episodes where I come in like a pop-up video of MMO means massive multiplayer online game.
Josh is getting lazy, though.
But
Is
things fall through the
word
cracks
paperclip?
sometimes.
What was that? Like pop-up videos on MTV television.
Yeah, music, television.
You're just Clippy, the old Clippy from Word.
Yeah, pretty much. But data mining is essentially where super nerds will take the files of a video game and just literally mine through it, comb through it for images, strings of code that reference certain things that you can't necessarily like pinpoint in a game or in game, images that you can't find in game, because sometimes what developers will do is, and if I'm describing any of this wrong, guys, tell me. What developers will do is stuff for like expansions or potential patch content or hidden things that the game doesn't outright tell you in the game, they'll put in there. So it's already kind of half loaded before they release, the full content patch that activates it. And so people go in and start data mining through all the files and folders and pieces of the game to try to find these little hidden secrets.
It's sometimes it's content that they intended to put in and couldn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like
sometimes it's stuff that's been cut.
Yeah,
completely.
Completely. And they just, because everything has a file, has a name. Each character has images tied to them, has data to them, so they come through those and they find just about everything they can.
The true horror is programming.
Amen.
Anything else you watching or playing?
I just finished Secret Wars.
Secret Invasion?
Or Secret Invasion, yeah.
Yeah, with no spoilers, but what'd you think? Yeah.
Without spoiling, I don't feel like anything got done.
Yeah, I feel like it was pretty...
Pointless.
Either of you guys watch it? Secret Invasion?
Not.
It was a disappointing, like, solo piece for, like focus piece for Nick Fury. But it wasn't terrible. Like, no. It's not bad. I don't think any of the Marvel stuff is terrible. It's just disappointing versus the quality of some of the Marvel pieces, especially some of the Marvel TV shows are really good. And Secret Invasion, the source content, I just felt like was so good, and they just didn't.
They did really good of this whole you can't trust anybody. I was like, oh, I'm really into this, and then like I said, it got to the ending, and they were like, nothing was solved.
I felt like nobody in it, like it was for a show about people that were like people and entities that are supposed to be super spies. Nobody was a very good spy.
No.
So, yeah. But anyway, Cody.
I'm with Aaron. I've mainly just been playing Remnant 2. We just recently beat it, so we're going through and unlocking some of the other stuff.
It's got a pretty heavy like horror element to it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's this.
It's kind of appropriate.
Without spoiling too much of the story, because I mean this comes from the earlier games as well. But there's basically this alien species that is traveling from planet to planet and is basically killing everything there, eating what it can, and moving on. Okay. And there's actually in this one a map called Loathsome, and it's very horror based. Like it's honestly extremely based on Bloodborne, which was an Eldritch Dark
like
Souls
Victorian game. Style, yeah.
But it also
the Gaslight era.
Yeah, but it also has the Fey world has collided with it. So now you have these elves and like angelic beings coming in on these people that are, walking around with like carts and buggies. And they actually worship them as gods until they start killing them, and then
there's a clock tower, and then you find a journal, because most of your backstory and things like that is stuff that you find, just like Dark Souls and them, you find items, descriptions, or you find like journals or papers laying around to learn stuff. And one of the journals is talking about how his grandfather started this clock tower, and he was finishing it, and they finished the clock tower, and all of a sudden the sky lit up, and these angels started descending, and people started worshiping, and then the angels just started killing everyone. And he was like, I think it's because of the clock tower.
Which is also a horror game.
Clock Tower, I have very fond memories of Clock Tower 3.
Snip.
Oh, yeah, dude. The first bit when, have you guys, everybody's played Clock Tower 3? Yeah. The first killer when you first come up to them, when you first find them, and it's the dude with the hammer or the axe or whatever. I think it's a hammer, and he busts out of that wall, and there's no build up. There's no, oh, he might be around here something. There's no music building up. Like, there's nothing to set tone. It's just, boop-a-doop-a-doo, let me do some little investigation. And then here he comes with that big hammer. It scared the bejesus out of me.
That's awesome. That's one thing I like about Clock Tower is the disempowerment.
Oh, yeah.
That's speaking of Remnant, I feel like you compared it, it's like Soulsborne.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like it really did for Soulsborne's what like Shadow the Hedgehog did for Sonic the Hedgehog.
You mean add guns?
Add a gun. Give him a gun and we'll just elevate it.
You're not wrong.
We're not completely wrong.
But it worked out in this story.
But this needs guns. Lee, what are you into?
I've been playing the Dead Cells Castlevania expansion. It just recently come out, and that's been a lot of fun. It's actually hard to put that game down. I've been playing that, and then I played some Baldur's Gate 3, which is incredible. Oh, it's so good.
I still want to get that.
Yeah.
And so what do you think of Baldur's Gate 3? The best RPG ever made. Supposedly.
I mean, have you played it?
No, I haven't
It's
played it.
gross. Like, it's... I don't even like CRPGs.
I know there are
Josh.
penis and vulva selections
Yes.
on the characters. So
Yeah, the first time you click take off clothes or whatever, it's like, oh, there it is.
it's just right there. Well, I played Conan Exiles, so it was right there.
Lee just went back and forth. He was like, oh!
Well, I mean, it's like, I'm only packing the
Lee's
same
throwing
around.
at his mouth. Look, see?
Well, I was just, no, I was
I'm
like,
average in the middle. I'm in the middle ground. You put the slider in the middle. What does that look like?
I was spinning around in my seat to make sure there's nobody standing behind me while I'm trying to make that character. What's this guy doing? I was like, that looks about right, I guess.
No, I've heard nothing but good things
It's
about
unreal.
Baldur's Gate 3. It looks amazing.
Yep, it is unreal, dude.
Let's, I'm trying to remember the company name.
Larian.
Lyrium. It's the same guys who did,
The Darkest Dungeon, right?
well, they did, I'm blanking out. Original Sin.
Divinity.
Yeah,
Divinity
Original
Original
Sin.
Sin. Yeah, I'm sorry, not
I
Darkest Dungeon.
love both of Divinity
This
Original
game
Sins.
is incredible, dude.
So,
Darkest Dungeon's the people who are in like copyright having copyright
Oh, really?
problems right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
some kind of like idea thing they're being claimed they stole, but they're saying it's just a coincidence. I don't know all the stories. I don't want to comment too much on it.
And I've been watching Suits on Netflix. That's been really good. That's just something my wife and I watched together. And then, what was the other thing? The Ultimate History of Video Games Volume 2. I've been listening to the audiobook.
nice.
That sounds
nice.
good.
It's awesome.
We'll throw a link to that in the show notes.
Oh, it's so good. Get your free Audible account. I'm not sponsored by Audible.
Yeah, we're sponsored by nothing. If somebody wants to sponsor us, by all means,
but we'd love to be.
Right.
I will plug whatever the hell you
will
want me
for
to
sure.
plug. Yeah,
Well, be careful what you say, because we'll have Raid Shadow Legends banging down the door.
dude,
I'd take
bring it on, Raid. Bring it on.
And then Hello Fresh
played
at the end right behind them.
I'm gonna take the NordVPN, Squarespace.
Yeah. What's it? MeUndies.
MeUndies. I take that.
Hey, Mike Lindell needs money. I'll plug a MyPillow. I don't care.
I need underwear. I'll take it.
Mike Lindell's got all kinds of lawsuits.
What, Manscaped.
Yes,
Yeah.
like the man
Oh,
Schaefer.
yeah.
What's it called?
Yeah.
What's that? What was that? There's a Manscaped that's got another name for it.
I don't know. I just know Manscaped.
Yeah, but anyway, let us know.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's on Audible. Highly recommend both of them.
So what are you doing?
What am I doing? Well, so last Friday, so we're recording right now towards the end of August. It's August 21st today. So spoiler, it's not actually spooky month.
No.
Every month is spooky month.
But last Friday was a very special day, as it was the release of the much awaited new expansion for the Marvel Champions LCG, the Next Evolution expansion. And that is my absolute favorite board game right now. And so I've spent most of the weekend playing solo games of Marvel Champions as either Domino or Cable against the Next Evolution villains, the Marauders, Juggernaut, Mr. Sinister, and Strife. And it has been absolutely incredible. I actually played a solo game today against Strife. I was Captain America. with the leadership aspect, and I had all my allies out, and Hope Summers alongside me, and fought Cable's evil clone Strife, and it was a sound thwomping. I absolutely love that game. Could not recommend it anymore.
Can't remake it.
Could not make any bigger recommendations for anything other than that. I don't know if that made fucking sense, but sorry.
It's a good game.
There's one.
There's your one.
There's one.
That's it.
I could not make heap higher praise on that game. It's amazing. I love it. LCGs are living card games. It's not like a collectible card game like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering where you have to buy a booster pack and you get something random. Marvel Champions, you buy a hero pack and it comes with a full deck to play that hero with your buddies, or you buy an expansion, you buy the core box, and you have everything you need to play. You don't have to hope for
The big thing on them is if I bought Captain America and Josh bought Captain America, same cards in the back. You only have to buy the one.
Nothing's different. There's no like rare cards.
Josh, how much money you spent on that game?
Huh?
Shut up.
How much money
All right,
you
so let's
spent on
move
that?
into our.
Hold on now. FUCK is an acronym for For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Now let's.
I thought it was fornicating under command of the king.
Oh, really? I've heard both. Well, I've
I don't-
not heard that one. I've heard carnal knowledge.
I heard it was from the German word ficken, which means to strike.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know, the German word for subject is fuck. So, yeah. Das fuck. So, I don't even have to say one.
It's the subject.
Was ist das fuck?
Well, you guys are fucking me with this. Subjecting me. All right. Anyway, let's move on to our... No, hold on. Wait. No, because I have something to ask. And we got like 4 minutes to hit the 20-minute mark. That's usually how long we go for our intro. So I got to... So I was watching Good Mythical More with Elizabeth and my daughter today. When Elizabeth got home from work. And a thing came up. And I had heard this before. And I'm a firm feel one way. And I'm going to ask you guys. So the topic was internal monologues. And it was, some people, quote unquote, don't have an internal monologue. And for the purpose of the discussion, internal monologue means when you think, do you like hear yourself speak in your head? So not necessarily like hear like you would hear us like you're listening to the podcast here, because that's psychosomatic stuff. That's genuine psychosis. But this is, do you just hear your voice in your head? Not like we're in the same room.
Actual words.
Yeah, but you can form words and you can think in like a cartoon character's voice. Like I can hear Foghorn Leghorn in my head if I think about Foghorn Leghorn saying something.
I was going to say yes, but mine's narrated by Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. Now, is that true?
Sometimes.
Well, right, but you can...
When I'm thinking, I do narrate things in my head in the
But
voice
it's a conscious
of that character.
effort to
Yes.
make Morgan Freeman say your internal monologue.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Like, I guess I'm not sitting there going, all right, Morgan Freeman. But if I'm looking at Morgan Freeman, a line, something Morgan Freeman said, he says it in my head.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I'm constantly, yes, absolutely, 100%. There's a constant audible monologue in my head.
Cody, Lee?
Yeah.
I hear voices.
Close enough.
No, hold on. Is it what you're thinking, or is it somebody else telling you to do things?
Burn them.
I hear what everybody hears. Burn them, kill them all.
No, mine's a
They're all
monologue too.
unclean and dirty.
Unclean.
Mine's totally a monologue. Shut up.
Yeah. No, I hear myself thinking in like coherent sentences, like actual words and
Yeah.
such. So.
Yeah.
I've actually heard that some people don't, and they have a more abstract way of thinking.
Yeah, those people are liars. I genuinely. So here's my hot take. Here's my hot take. I genuinely believe those people are saying that to get attention. And I come at me, internet, because I know I'm gonna get canceled. I genuinely believe, because some of the examples are so outlandish. One was a popular example was a librarian who claimed that her internal monologue. I'm just checking the timer. Her internal monologue was a TV, like a TV screen that ran in an attic. And you accessed it with a set of stairs that climbed up behind, that you had to climb up, that were behind her left ear.
That's
You
inconvenient.
climb these. Yeah, that's what they're like. That's how long does it take you to register something if that's the case?
I gotta take your order.
So like if she,
for 2 + 2, does it take 5 minutes for you to climb your
so
stairs?
if she was thinking about,
Oh wait, it's not on this channel. Sorry.
this is the example that was on Rhett and Link. If she was thinking about washing powders or grabbing, detergent at the store to remind herself, she would visualize herself reaching to the TV screen to grab dish soap. And I'm telling you right now, that woman's either mentally unwell or lying for attention, because that's nuts to me. And I don't understand. I genuinely don't buy into it.
She's just watched the Dreamweaver, Stephen King Dreamweaver.
Dreamcatcher.
Yeah.
Dreamcatcher, that's it. The Dreamcatcher. Because that's what the guy does. He has a library, and that's all his memories and stuff. And that's the whole the alien that invades him.
That it's
He's high, yeah.
And
He's hiding.
Transition.
maybe I'm being
Actual
insensitive, but I just.
I hope somebody gets mad. I hope they comment all over this. I hope they share it and like it and just listen to
hate
it.
it, yeah.
Just hate comment
But
all you want.
That's why I genuinely feel like that is something, because there was another thing on there where they were talking about, somebody was profiled by the Guardian that they think in their internal monologue is that of like a Southern prospector, and this is somebody from like Britain, and that's what they think in, and the general consensus was this is someone that really wanted to be profiled by the Guardian. You know what I mean? Like why?
Well, it's like I said, if I'm reading or I'm thinking of something Morgan Freeman is saying, I'll hear it
You
in
can
his
hear,
voice.
yeah, but it's
But
like
I
if
don't
That's
narrate
typical.
myself.
You're just remembering his voice whenever you're reading his sentence.
I'm not sitting
Yeah.
there going, "Oh my God, Josh is talking forever. Why don't you just shut up?" But I don't hear Morgan Freeman saying this in my
Yeah,
head.
it'd be like if it was Foghorn Leghorn going, man, I tell you now, boy, Aaron's there won't shut up.
Southern prospector.
Yeah.
You have 2 months to live, so we're so sorry. Tarnation!
You gonna die.
It's like somebody lit a stick of dynamite.
But it just blows my. I mean, my wife. So my wife fully claims that, not that she doesn't have an internal monologue, but that she doesn't imagine, like that she has a very, I mean, for lack of a better term, just real crap imagination. And she's planning our wedding. That's what I said. How do you envision what you want?
Sounds cheap. Shh, don't
Well,
shake
that's
the tree,
why,
dude.
that's why I asked her. I know she's going to listen to this. She's going to be pissed. But how do you envision? Like, you have to have something. There's something you're envisioning that you see that you're like, okay, this is kind of what I would like. And then I go look for something similar and then I find something I like. She's like, no, I just look until I see something that's pretty. And then I go.
Well,
And I'm like, but you're very creative. Like, how do you not have?
she
like-
was in the military. They train them not to have minds.
I guess. But it just blows my mind that people can't like imagine. Like, I can think of a dragon with 3 heads, and one breathes fire, one breathes ice, and
doing it
one
right
shoots Walmart coupons out of its mouth. Like, I can see that in my head.
I am a dragon.
That's the dragon I want to find.
Yeah, I want them coupons.
With a gun.
It's probably in Remnant somewhere. Well, have you ever heard of that? Like
Yeah.
I don't know the dragon.
I have a kind of weird thing where it's like, do you do the thing where you associate colors with numbers? And
Yeah, that's synesthesia.
yeah, apparently that's really common too, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of people do that.
Like synesthesia, they use.
Synesthesia. I think it's a really mild form of synesthesia. I might be.
That's when they put you to sleep.
Like 6
No,
of
that's
red.
anesthesia.
Oh.
Synesthesia
I thought that
is
was the princess. That's Anastasia.
is it's like seeing, like making associations of different things, like music. When you hear
Oh,
music,
yeah.
it elicits colors.
Yeah,
And
our friend
things.
Trevin.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I can't say for sure, but he says he does.
Yeah.
But he had perfect pitch, so
Oh yeah,
That's
he's
all I'm going
absolutely
to say.
wonderfully talented musician.
That's like 3 is red, 4 is green. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. I always associated
That's
like
weird.
subjects in
Six
school
also
with colors.
One fish, 2
Yeah.
fish, red fish,
Yeah.
blue fish.
Yeah, that's,
Pretty much.
that's mine.
English is blue
Yeah.
One shell, 2
Yeah.
shell.
for me.
All right,
Here comes the blue
it's
shell.
time to get spooky. I wanted to talk about that for me because it made me mad. All right, so let's get spooky.
I like spooky.
So we're going to talk about horror.
Ah!
And
Oh, yeah.
so what It's first. What does horror mean to everybody? What is horror? When we say I'm gonna participate in something that has to do with horror, what are we consuming? Aaron,
Scary.
Yeah.
what does that mean?
That I'm going to be frightened.
How?
Well,
Why?
let's get into this then, shall we? In my perspective,
Okay.
here's the problem that I have with horror movies nowadays, and that's what I feel like we're
Just
really
movies or everything?
everything really. But so you think a horror movie, you think of something that's going to terrify you, something that's going to keep me up at night, something that's going to I'm like, oh, I'm scared of this. Horror movies anymore they've went away from that. Now it's I'm going to startle you. I'm going to jump scare you. That's all anything is anymore. It's nothing is like, oh, that's scary. It's all going to be like, ha! Yeah, like that. That's
I was
all
more
it is.
cringing over what our listeners are about to hear when
Yeah.
they, when they go by that part.
Travis
and
will
your
fix it. It's
face was right next to the microphone and you screamed.
Tinnitus is scary.
Hold on. I can get closer.
Please don't.
But
No, I agree with you.
that's a problem I have with horror movies anymore. It's all jump scares.
It's jump scares, or it was Saw, where it just turns into like torture porn.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gore fest type deal.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was just gonna say I kind of disagree, Aaron, but I think you have to look a little harder for it than you used to.
Yeah, there's
Maybe.
still good ones there.
I don't know,
but-
maybe not even used to, but yeah, but we'll talk about it.
I was just gonna comment on Hereditary, dude. That movie just jacked me up, and it's
Okay.
not jump scare.
It's a slow burn.
I'd never watch it again. I'm good.
Really?
Never again. Messed with for like 2 weeks. I called home after the theater and said, "Shelly, turn the light on the porch."
Well,
I messed up.
the first death in it is just a gut punch of a death.
Oh,
And
yeah,
for somebody
no.
that's not watched, I guess I know it's like a 8-9-year-old movie at this point.
Yeah, when the little girl hits the thing, I'm not worried about spoilers. Kiss my hind end, it's a 10-year-old movie.
But it is the first one is like, because most horror movies don't have the guts to do that.
And show it
Yeah, and show it.
like they stuff.
I feel like they do.
But
they really do. Because me and the girls we watched one where a woman gave birth to a child. They skinned it and then wrote devil incantations on it, and it was
grief.
shown
Yeah.
from start to effing finish. Like,
What was this?
I cannot remember the name of the movie to save my life, and I will
It's probably-
try to look it up while you guys are talking.
Like, some of the more less mainstream movies
Right.
will show a bunch of stuff like that, but for like Hereditary, where it was like a top shelf, like
it was
pushed out front.
A12 or A21 or whatever
Really?
it was. Yeah.
I've not watched that actually.
That's little. That's
No,
close.
Hereditary. The production company
Oh.
is A12.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like it's one of those, and they make real A24.
Yeah.
A24 is a production company for Hereditary, but they do a lot of good. They did Midsummer.
Great stuff. Yeah.
It's just
all that.
more of a psychological, and it's like
Yeah.
a slow burn. And honestly, I like those better
Yeah, me too.
as far as like a scare you kind of sense.
Yeah, and so what you watched was probably never shown in theaters, I imagine.
Probably not.
Okay, yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that's not shown in theaters, yeah, they'll anything goes.
Yeah,
in those.
your imagination's your limit. Yeah, but as for like mainstream stuff, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff that everybody's seeing.
Yeah, it's the most violent stuff that you're going to get on those is something like Saw.
Which is kind of surprising. That
Yeah, I
even
guess, but
happened.
like Final Destination was in the Final Destination 2 or 3. Which one was the one where like the 12-year-old kid gets bent in half by the plate glass that falls on top of it?
2, I think.
You know what? It's the same one
I
with
think
the
it's
wood.
2. Yeah, it's 2.
It's the same one with the
log
wood.
truck.
Yeah,
with the
log
log
truck
truck.
was 2.
And it was like a teenage kid. He's a kid. Like, he's genuinely a child. He's not like a high schooler.
Yeah.
And he runs over and like scares some pigeons, and then the Rube Goldberg machine from hell gets triggered by that, and then this big piece of plate glass falls from a crane and just squishes him in half. And it's a kid,
That's all Final Destination is. It's watching those satisfying
Yeah, it's
machine engines with an unsatisfying ending.
Dude, it's Rube Goldberg. It's the most horrifying Rube Goldberg machines from hell.
It's just like ding dong dong.
I can't watch Final Destination.
There's probably a distinction, though, I would argue, between watching somebody write devilish incantation on an infant's corpse after childbirth and
After
a plane of
skinning
glass,
it.
like Wile E. Coyote sort of situation with a plane of glass. So,
Yeah, like
I guess, but yeah, I mean, The Witch.
Well,
Yeah.
Did you watch The Witch?
I actually haven't seen that. I've been
It's my
meaning to.
favorite horror
I've heard it's
film
wonderful.
of all time.
That one is pretty psychological as
Yeah,
well, but it does have.
And I think The Witch is A24, but there's a scene in The Witch where there is an infant that is stolen, and the witch, now it's some of it's implied. It's not like straight up shown, and this other one isn't like, oh, there's a baby and they cut it, which there are movies like that.
Yeah.
But they're mostly indie, like you said. But this one, like, it's still pretty graphic what they're doing, and they're smearing the infant blood on them. These witches are eating it to be young again, and that's the implication at least.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah.
Please for
Oh,
me.
I'm sorry. I mean, this is
I mean,
like
I'm sure that
the
happens.
beginning
Yeah,
of the
that's-
movie.
That's
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like a spoiler at all. So,
Oh, yeah.
Going to ruin the movie, Josh.
if that's how the movie ended, I
No,
would not watch
no.
it.
I highly suggest watching it. Especially, I'd
It is a
wait
good
till
movie.
October and watch it. It's one of my favorites.
I've heard
watch any
nothing but good
chance I
things.
get. Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy is absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, she is good.
Yeah.
But anyway, what were we talking about?
We were just we
Just
kind of
discussing
broke
the
into what
movies.
does horror mean, and we were talking about movies. But there's a whole other genre, like set of horror filled media or ways we consume our horror fix than just movies. Like I
like books.
yeah,
Really?
that's what scare me nowadays more than movies are books. Games, 110%. Like I can't play scary games. I
I
just can't.
love scary games. That's what I like most.
There's
Terrifies me.
I guess there's a difference between the game and the movie because there's a disconnect. You have no control.
You know you're
Yeah.
watching a
it's
movie.
going wherever.
Yeah.
But you have control of that game character.
You're
And I mean,
participating.
yeah, and I mean,
You're a part of
at
it.
the end, it doesn't really matter because they die, you come back, try again.
Yeah.
But
But you have a choice.
yeah, it's
It
your
matters.
actions cause whatever. So there's a disconnect for the movies there.
And that's scary. That's
Yeah.
scary to think, that your choices in whatever situation they have repercussions. If
I
it
guess
wasn't scary, I wouldn't have a classroom full of senior high school kids that are shaking in their boots because they're about to graduate. You
Kind
know,
of like
Yeah.
the Until Dawn games. That's why I think that's
Oh,
why
they're
they've
so
done so well. Because I mean, they're basically a movie. It's playing out, and you just pick which directions the characters go, but you decide who lives and who dies by what you're doing. So
But yeah, I'm with you. Like blood doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
Like the Saw stuff doesn't scare me. It's just at this point, it's
Yeah.
like that's gross.
Yeah.
But it's more of a psychological thing that gets me.
Well, that's the big thing. Is like I said, a lot of movies is particularly mainstream. I will say,
Yeah.
particularly mainstream movies. That's all they do is jump scares.
Yeah.
There was it was just an internet show called Marble Hornets, and it was about Slender Man, and it was this guy who was making a film, and he had found Slender Man, and this weird thing started happening, and they did a really good job, and it was like creepy. Like there was one like he was like hand cam, like
found
Blair-
footage.
yeah, like found footage, like Blair Witch stuff, and like he was recording all
I
of
love sound footage.
this stuff, and like he did one where he heard noises outside his house, and he started looking, and he was taking the camera, and he showed him like hiding in his living room, and they had like just the Slender Man, this big thing that looked like a Slender Man going through the windows, like you could see like because the door was like an arch, it had like the half circle doors that just had like 4 pieces of glass, and you could just see like the Slender Man head going across, and it was creepy. And it was great. I was like, man, this is like, I'm getting chills. That was good horror.
Some of the slow burn stuff.
I like
Yeah.
the slow. I like the stuff where you have to find it.
Yeah.
The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. that
series
show
was great.
so good because there is every single scene just about in that show. There's a ghost in it somewhere. You just have to find, and they are not, sometimes they're pretty obvious. Right, sometimes it's the main focal point of the scene is, oh crap, there's a ghost, and then sometimes it's just somebody the characters pass.
Yeah.
And then you realize upon rewatching, like,
It's like, oh, that
that's
person
a
didn't look right.
clocksmith from 1930, and these people are in
like
2015.
That person didn't look quite right.
Right, like,
Yeah.
and you don't realize it until you watch. Like in that one of the opening scenes when they're walking through the house, like touring it, there's a dude working on the grandfather clock. That guy's a ghost.
Oh, that's neat.
And it never draws attention to it, never tells you, like, hey, this dude's a ghost. It's just, if you watch and you pay attention, you realize, like, that guy's got turn-of-the-century clothes on. He's fixing this, like, and nobody ever mentions him or talks to him in the scene because the characters don't acknowledge him.
Yeah,
'Cause he's not
walking
there.
behind.
It's so cool. And then like sometimes you'll see them like off in the distance, like moving through rooms, and like that stuff is what terrifies me.
Yeah.
Is the stuff that's out there in the periphery.
I teach that book, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yep, my sophomore's read it last year. I'm teaching it again this year.
that's so good.
And the book is, I mean, I told him, I said, you can watch the Netflix show if you want to, guys. Go ahead, because it has practically nothing to do with the book.
Yeah.
It's so different. But it's a great book.
That was the other
I mean,
one.
most of the stuff that's based on the book is just loosely based, like name alone.
Yeah.
but it was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying it was really, really good. Going back to games, just real quick to scare, and we'll get into a little bit of history of horror after we talk about this a bit. Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
I have strong opinions about that game. I played through it, and it is a rather creepy game, I give it that. But after a certain point, puzzles become so aggravating that it quits being scary, and I am just angry.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
I can't
not
be scared because I'm pissed.
And it's not because I can't figure the puzzle out because it gave me the clues. It's because there's 4 pops on this side and there's this pops over here, and you can walk around the room and you can collect 3 pops. And it was like everything else in this hallway was matched this side, the left side to the right side, until you get to the end. There's only 3 pops and there's 4 on the other side. I spent an hour and a half looking for a 4th pop.
It goes like, ooh, and you're like, not now.
By the time I figured out what was going on,
woo your ass over there and find pop. You Patrick Swayze around here trying to figure out.
it's like, that's not a clever puzzle. That's stupid.
Oh, that's so funny.
But I was just angry by the time I finished it. I was like, I don't even care anymore.
Oh yeah, Cody was furious. I watched him play that. Wasn't that one room, and the whole time they're like, "Don't stay in the dark. Keep your light on."
Yeah,
and then they have one place.
Game. It's don't stay in the light. These monsters are going to come out and get you. Don't get in the light. And there's this one place you walk in, you turn your light on, you immediately get killed. You're supposed to go to that place in the dark.
Yeah.
No hint for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like
He
Stuff
does-
like that is stupid.
I remember you dying several times, and I finally looked it up, and I was like, "Yeah, apparently you're not supposed to turn your light on, Cody."
But horror games like that, I can play for like 35, 40, because I have an overactive imagination. I don't know if anybody here realizes that, but I have a very overactive imagination. I get anxious.
I've played Phasmophobia with you.
Oh my god! Yeah, Phasmophobia, I get terrified.
Phasmophobia is hilarious. They just had a new update for that.
I know. We gotta try it. We gotta try it.
Yeah, Wayne really wants to play it.
Well, maybe we can do that tonight after the podcast. But yeah, so games. I mean, Lee, anything that really sticks out to you about not any game in specific, which I really shouldn't have mentioned. Amnesia: The Dark Descent, because we're trying not to do that, but
You set off
just
Cody.
anything.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned like several specific things. That was not the goal, but we'll expand on those more in the individual episode.
Yeah, I don't know, with horror gaming, it's all about atmosphere for me. So
And
Yeah.
like books do that for me too.
Yeah,
like the
me
horror
too.
books, audio books too. Listening to retellings, it's got to be a certain person speaking. But I can get. I mean, there was a while I was listening to the entire H.P. Lovecraft collection when I was driving. I'd drive home at night from UK. I was on the Mountain Parkway, and it's just all mountains and fog and listening
That's perfect
to
for those books.
yeah, someone tell a story about an eldritch abomination, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm going to die on this hill today. And then I die on this road. I just knew I was going to come across like some hitchhiker, or Old Gods of Appalachia. And I was listening to shout out to Steve Shell and Cam Collins. Amazing.
Book wise, I enjoy a lot of Stephen King.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of his more recent stuff's not been horror.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I mean, Stand By Me wasn't really horror like back in the day. I mean,
He's not got a whole lot of stuff that is, just horror entirely, but some of his horror stuff is really good.
Dude, Pet Cemetery, the book,
oh yeah.
freaked me out. And then
Yeah.
Stephen King's It. I never did finish the whole book, but like the beginning's just so
Honestly, like the build up and setup and that, I think is
so good.
Brittany refuses to watch Pet Cemetery. Even the new one, she said she watched the original and it terrified her, and she refuses to watch it.
God, the
But-
book is so good.
I think his best book's 11/22/63 though. Like
I've
that's
heard.
written.
I'm actually that's great.
It's really good. A lot of his shorter stuff, I think, is way better than his long novels. But
Yeah, in it, dude. Like, I didn't think a book could scare me like that, honestly, because I was reading it. It'd be like, dude, it was like, I don't know, 200 pages. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic here, but like 100 pages between like sightings of Pennywise. But when it came up, it was like, ugh! Because it would just be like, you'd be reading.
He's got a good setup.
Yeah, it would be some kind of setup. Something you're in the moment, like these guys are beating this dude up. And then Pennywise is like, hello. And I'm like, go!
I mean, if we're going in books, you also, I guess, going farther back, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Ooh.
Written in as letters between the characters, like as left for whoever or mailed to somebody. It's a little hard to read the first time going through because, Old English,
It's dry.
dialogue. It's a dry book, But a lot of the scarier scenes in it, he's got a really good setup. And if you go back and read a second time, I think it's better the second time through.
Yeah, so, maybe that's why those have lasted so long. That's why they've still at the forefront. It's not just because they created the monsters, the Hollywood monsters or whatever, but it's I think Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is super creepy. The book, I think Frankenstein's creepy. I think
that's the
Dracula's
birth
creepy.
of science fiction, right?
Yeah.
Mary
It's
Shelley's
Frankenstein's the absolute birth. We wouldn't have
genuinely spooky.
90% of what we have without Mary Shelley, and all those people. But if this is a good time to kind of go into where did horror come from? So, and this is, I'm not a historian. Most of this is coming from Wikipedia and little articles that I picked up. So, horror literature, and Lee, you're an English teacher, so you
bit of that.
Yeah, so you may have a bit better
So
background.
we expect you to know this.
Yeah, so we expect you to know everything. Name every book ever written.
Right now.
What kind of English major are you?
Yeah.
You're not a real fan, huh?
So, one of the first. So this is pretty good. So one of the first ever tales. So there have been scary stories for as long as there has been
communication.
Yeah,
basically.
communication. There has been, we saw this creature over there. Don't go over there. There's been this, but just folklore as a.
There's been scary stories as long as there's been children and parents don't want them to go places.
Right, and that's kind of the evolution of that. And there's a lot of evolutionary biology to that. Kind of that forewarning, that foreboding deal. The evolution of folklore as entertainment, of horror as entertainment, as something we consume willingly rather than cautionarily. I think one of the things I found pretty cool is you had one of the first ones was 61 to 113. So this is AD. So the year 61 to 113, we had Pliny the Younger, who was born in 61, died in 113, and one of his tales was of Athenodorus Canonites, and he bought a haunted house in Athens.
Sounds like a fantastic book.
Yeah, and so Athenodorus was cautious since the house seemed inexpensive, and he apparently was writing a book. So this is a story of Athenodorus Canonites is an author. He's a philosophy author, and he's writing a book on philosophy, and he bought this house for cheap and to write his book in, and then he was visited by a ghostly figure bound in chains. And how many stories and how many ghosts ghost stories have we seen of the author that goes to the secluded house and this is in the year somewhere in year 80 to year 100.
Well, you have that, but you also have all the reportedly true hauntings are always, I bought this house super cheap.
Oh yeah. But this is just a quintessential scary story.
Speaking of, there's a house really close to the house right now that is on sale. Really cheap. Nice house too.
Phasmophobia time.
Has a sign that says definitely not haunted.
Ain't hardly not been no murders in it at all.
We need to tell Pat that he's a Phasmophobia LARPer. Oh man.
Oh yeah, because Pat goes guessing. We used to go guessing. We went and
Phasmophobia LARPing.
that video where they say, your ghost is haunted or your house is haunted, and it's probably a djinn. She's like, what do we do? How do we get it out? He's like, we don't do that. He's like, I'd probably move or just seal off. It's in your basement. Probably just seal that off and not go back down there.
Yeah, that's really good. Or you could be a doctor in the 1800s. You're sick, but you've got that's just ghosts in your blood. You should do some cocaine.
Oh yeah. Okay, so moving on to around the year 1000. So we're almost contemporary times. The good old days of 1000. Apparently, werewolf stories were pretty popular. So this is one was commissioned by the Countess Yolande. Commissioned a werewolf story called Guillaume de Palerme. And then there were anonymous writers penned 2 werewolf stories, Biclarel and Melion. And so Guillaume de Palerme is it's a poem. So this was a werewolf story that was commissioned by the Countess Yolande around 1200. And it was a poem, and it translates into William and the Werewolf.
That was a love story. It wasn't a horror story at all.
It may be.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. But I mean, that's how long back you can trace like the history of quote unquote horror, and it still we still pull some of these tropes and stuff today. And then moving past the year 1000, the early thousands, I guess. What is that called? The first millennia.
I guess.
What's that time period called?
I don't know. I wasn't alive.
Dude, Dark Ages was about 476 forward to about the 5th century.
Yeah, so this is
The first century? Probably the first century.
First century.
No,
First century is
first 10th
100.
century.
Yeah, first 10th century. Whatever.
Mid-
We ain't
Dawn of the millennia.
we ain't
really,
historicals. That ain't what we do. We tell you what happened. We ain't gonna tell you what it's called.
First
You wanna figure
Century
that
Fox, Is that
You turn on the History Channel.
Moving on to your next big.
Yeah, so moving on, the next kind of, when we're talking about the written word, this is around the 15th century, and then you get like the horror icon, Vlad Dracula.
Tepes.
Right, so
Vlad
this,
Tepes.
yeah. So you got Vlad Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration for Count Dracula, Vlad Tepes.
He's got a lot because he also had an original setup for like the undead coming back, because he would bury people just below the ground along his country borders and everything. So as they went into rigor mortis, their body would start to shake or whatever, they burst out of the ground. And because he lived in such a small country compared to the 2 warring countries on each side, and he used it as a scare tactic, because they're like, oh, we don't want to go over there. Look at what he's doing. And then he would also, cut the heads off of people and launch them in catapults. No, actually load catapults with heads and launch them at the other army.
Well, he's just ripe for horror tropes.
Best neighbor ever.
Yeah.
But
The guy old Vlad's at it again.
like, undead coming up. He done that, but he's not where zombie originated. That was
It was a voodoo.
yeah, it's voodoo.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
the
neat.
hoodoo.
Voodoo to voodoo.
Voodoo that you do.
And that's where the first use of zombie was.
I didn't
So
know
I think
about the
it was-
bodies coming out of the ground thing. That's really
I
cool.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
either.
I done a dissertation kind of on Dracula as a
That's awesome.
inspiration. And his name literally means, like, Dracula means son of the devil.
Nice.
And
Good.
And his dad's name was Dracula, which is the devil.
Yeah.
So-
All right. So that stands to reason. Dracula,
Son of Dracula is son of the devil. The devil.
Son of the
Son
devil.
of the son of
It's
the
a
son
grandson
of
of the devil, I
The
guess.
son of the son of the devil.
Yeah.
That's
Son of a
like
gun.
The Los Angeles Angels translates to the Angels.
The angels.
But yeah, he had a whole lot going for him. So
Okay, so moving on, we're going to get into the 18th century, and this is where a lot of... So we talked about House of Haunted Hill, or The Haunting of Hill House, rather, and I mean even House on Haunted Hill, for that matter. The Haunting of Bly Manor. A lot of this stuff where we see the image of the big house that is steep in history and darkness and something shrouds, or even like the mysterious town. These are all tropes of like quote unquote Gothic horror, and that's a lot of what we see in a lot of our horror movies and horror books and media today. Is that kind of they're derivative of the initial Gothic horror, and apparently some of the beginnings of that were the late Middle Ages, from Horace Walpole's seminal and controversial 1764 novels. Let's see. The 18th century saw a gradual development of Romanticism in the Gothic horror genre. It drew on the written and material heritage of the late Middle Ages, found its form with Horace Walpole's seminal and controversial 1764 novel, The Castle of Otranto.
Controversial.
Apparently.
I wonder how.
That's what we're going to find out.
We don't like castles in our stories.
Yeah, so this the aesthetic of this, so this is like the birth of goth, apparently. Like this is where goth came from.
That's controversial.
The Castle of Otranto, a gothic story. So see, it even has like impact. It's he created the entire gothic novel genre. I mean, you think like even Dracula's like kind of this gothic type stuff. And that's, you know, the big house is big. There's a mystery behind it. There's something dark, foreboding underneath.
Yeah.
Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't find anything over why it was controversial.
For a later dig.
Maybe it's something to do with like where people perceive the origins. Maybe that's the controversy.
Yeah, maybe it was first published. The first edition was published disguised as an actual like romance to try to get somebody to take it on and do that. So that might be why.
Yeah.
Here's a romance book, and it's actually a horror book.
Yeah, so it was
like
the first edition was published disguised as an actual medieval romance from Italy, discovered and republished by a fictitious translator. Once it was revealed as modern, many found it anachronistic, reactionary, and in poor taste. But it proved and so that was why it was controversial, because they lied about it. They said it was old and like recreated by this translator.
And probably just to be when it says romantic, it doesn't mean love.
Right, it means the time period. It's talking about the romantic period. What does romantic mean? What does romantic mean, Teach?
It's usually
let's educate the people.
It's usually associated with like fantasy, something beyond the normal world, like fairies or whatever else. That's like when you romanticize something, you make it more than what it is. So the romantic period tried to go beyond just what
like two people kissing.
Beyond that.
But it's like
yes, but imagine they're fairies.
It's also kind of like the love of like an adventure kind of going on, because One Piece, the first chapter of it is called Romance Dawn, and it's like this grand adventure set.
That's a game series.
And so I gotta say,
Romance Dawn.
Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Romance of the Kingdom. I'm sorry.
That's Dynasty Warriors.
No.
Yes and no.
Romance of the Three Kingdoms is Dynasty Warriors.
No, it's its own series.
It's Dynasty Warriors.
It's the same setting as Dynasty
It's the same
Warriors,
people,
but
sure.
It's Dynasty
It's
Warriors.
a completely different series.
It's Dynasty Warriors. Anyway, moving on. So let's move on to the 1900s, or the 19th century rather. We're full blown in the 1800s, and this is where we're going to stop with the literature, just because this is where it really like takes off. Like this is where we see in 1812 we get Hansel and Gretel by the Brothers Grimm. We get Frankenstein in 1818 by Mary Shelley. We get The Vampire by John Polidori in 1819. We get The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Washington Irving, 1820. We get The Mummy. We get The Hunchback of Notre Dame. We get Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the late 1800s. The Picture of Dorian Gray. Anybody read The Picture of Dorian Gray? It's like one of my favorite books.
I know the picture, but I've never read it.
Yeah.
I've read an excerpt.
For anybody out there who hasn't read The Picture of Dorian Gray, if you've ever heard the trope of there's a picture of me in an attic somewhere aging while I stay, that's where that comes from.
I've never heard that as a trope.
You ever heard somebody talk about like...
No.
Oh, how do they... You see somebody that just doesn't look like they've aged, and somebody said, oh yeah, I'm sure there's a picture of them somewhere getting older.
Never heard anybody say that before.
We say that all the time.
I actually know Dorian Gray mostly from League of
Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think everybody I just named is in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I think so. Yeah. But that's where I think I remember first seeing him.
Speaking of H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man, 1897,
yeah.
And then also in 1897 Dracula. So the 1800s just an absolutely banger year for horror stories.
What year was it?
18.
So
for what?
For Dracula and Invisible Man?
What year was it?
1897.
Yeah, Dracula is actually relatively modern compared to most things.
Right?
For us to just reuse the tropes over and over again.
And then I do have to mention...
They're good.
They're good.
I do got to mention my boy. Steeped in some controversy, but my boy H.P. Lovecraft,
Yeah.
who had
He also believed that all games were Dynasty Warriors.
he later on in life he got better about it as he but he's a little racist, a little xenophobic early on, and by a little I mean quite a bit. He's a fantastic writer, man. Sometimes you gotta separate the art from the artist. I'm not making excuses. The guy was a jerk, but he got a little better.
Yeah, it's a brilliant writer.
But yeah, I mean, just one of the most influential horror writers of the 20th century.
I mean, created a whole new genre.
And he didn't actually create the mythos. The mythos was this is just stories that he was writing, and these later on he was contemporaries with Robert E. Howard and Robert Bloch and
Who's Howard?
Robert E. Howard.
Yeah,
that's like Conan.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I know that.
I'm pretty sure. Am I quoting that wrong?
So I was thinking.
I don't think I'm right.
I was thinking Ender's Game. That's Robert something else, isn't it?
No, I don't know Ender's Game. I don't know who did that.
You think I would, but turns out
Robert E. Howard was Conan. Robert E. Howard was the one who wrote the swords and sorcery stuff, and he and Lovecraft were big time friends.
That's awesome.
Writing letters back and forth. So that was where you get. What are you doing? Who are you trying to call?
No, my
Why are you
wallet.
calling people?
My wallet has an NFC card in it, and my NFC reader keeps picking it up.
No, but so I mean, we're in the 1900s with Lovecraft, and then you go on Stephen King,
Well, it's
all
funny
that stuff.
there's a dry spell of horror, from the early 1900s up until a certain point. There's not that much that I can think of.
From the 1900s?
From the early 1900s. There's not really that much I can think of that hit big. I'm sure there's stuff there.
Shirley Jackson and The Haunting of Hill House she lived from 1916 to 1965. She wrote The Lottery.
1930 something then, 1940.
Yep. That was horror in itself, man.
If we're talking 1925, and that's H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, okay. He was
Haunting of Hill House was
early
59.
1900s. Yeah.
So, and The Lottery, that's kind of spooky in itself.
Phantom of the Opera was 1910.
okay.
Huh.
I just didn't know when those came out. So
Yeah, well, there's still a block where it's just I think the focus became war mostly at that point with the World Wars.
We have M.R. James at the turn of the anybody ever read M.R. James is absolutely the most prolific ghost haunting writer ever.
Mm-hmm.
You guys never M.R. wrote
James? Not really.
What,
so
any titles?
He's the Canterville Ghost. A bunch of stuff set in a lot of stuff set in old England and Britain.
I probably read some of it then.
But he's just fantastic and just notoriously a skeptic. Did not believe in shit about ghosts and stuff. And then asked where do you come up with? He's I don't know, it's just scary. I like it. Didn't believe in anything about it. But I just like to write ghost stories.
Well, it's you take Stephen King, he's coined as the greatest horror author of our time, given. I would honestly put him more as a character author than a horror author, really. I mean, he has a lot of horror books, but most of his stuff is
character driven,
more centered around how the characters deal with things rather than the actual activities of the monsters.
Yeah, but basically any story he writes that has a bunch of kids growing up together, I'm just feed it to me through a fire hose. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about
stuff,
a little history of horror in general. So where did the horror as a genre come from? Because obviously the written word's where that's going to start, right? So next, after that, what do we have?
Movies. Really.
Yeah. So the first horror movie was a movie called Le Manoir. I'm going to absolutely murder this.
Can we read it?
Yeah, I do. Sure. You know what? I do. I want you to read that.
My little French Creole.
Butcher it?
What does that
I'll butcher it, yeah. Let's see.
I'm so sorry to any of our French listeners.
Manoir du Diable?
I won't say Le Manoir du Diable.
Diable?
The Manor of the Devil?
Yeah.
The Haunted Castle.
Oh, there you go.
The House of the Devil.
House of the Devil, yeah.
Le Manoir du Diable. I don't know if that's French or what that is.
Sounds like
Le Manoir.
It sounds
It looks
very
French, but it's one of those things where it may be something.
You're putting a
different.
French accent on it, so
I am
it's
putting
French.
Le Manoir du Diable. I want to make a scary movie.
Is that what the translation?
So apparently, sometimes known in English as The Haunted Castle or The House of the Devil, in 1896 by a guy named George Méliès. George Méliès. I'm sure it's probably pronounced like
Malaise.
Jean Méliès or something like that. Yeah, I really wish they had like the actual pronunciations on here, so I'm not doing this any justice. It's a 3-minute film. It's believed to be the first horror movie. 3 minutes, complete with cauldrons, animated skeletons, ghosts, transforming bats, and ultimately, you know him and I know him, the devil.
That's interesting.
While not intended to be scary, it was more wondrous, as was Méliès' M.O. It was the first example of a film only just rediscovered in 1977. So, I mean, I'd say relatively recently, because I think 1977, that was 23 years ago. No, it wasn't.
No.
It was 46 years ago.
Yeah.
To include the supernatural and set a precedent for what was to come. Oh, wow.
Is that it?
So Lee has pulled it up here, and I'm going to put a link to this in the show notes.
It transformed.
Oh, it did. There's a bat, and it transformed. Good God.
That's
Is
the
that
devil.
the devil?
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a cauldron now.
That's movie magic if I ever seen it.
Yeah.
To be
Oh,
fair-
man. If listeners, if you could see this, you'd be transported to a world of
To be
whimsy,
fair, for
wonder,
the-
and terror.
For the time period. This
Oh,
is
yeah, it's
really
fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
I have Adobe Creative Suite. I still couldn't do this.
Travis, get on it. Figure out how to do this, Travis.
This is when they thought it was amazing when they could stop the camera and move props around
Oh, and then turn it back on.
Made it look like it magically appeared, and they were like, "Oh!"
I still got me. I was like,
For what it's worth, when we had our little camera when I was in my teens and we were trying to make our own movies, we thought it was amazing when we could do that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of the first movie, and then we get into the early 1900s again. So this is 1896. This is the final bit of the 1800s, which is where we were talking about like the golden age of horror literature. So it kind of makes sense. Like if they're going to make something with those themes when all that's coming out, and we're getting that kind of massive surge into the culture of that type of theming, that we would see a movie or something. Like we're getting films are now coming out. It makes sense somebody would want to film something like that.
It's, like, it's hot, man. It's hot stuff.
It's new hotness. That's old George Milieu's on it, man.
For real.
He's got the new hotness coming out and waiting for the new Milieu pick. And sometime apparently between like 1900 and 1920, you get an influx of supernatural themed films, which is where we get, the werewolf, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, yeah, like that one.
Never watched that one. But
Really? Oh, it's so good.
Nosferatu's in the
Yep.
20s, right?
1922. So Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is 1920, and then Nosferatu's 1922.
Okay.
So what's the cabinet about? Can you give me like a
It's,
quick synopsis?
So Dr. Caligari is this kind of like magician, and his cabinet is somebody goes in and just sees horrors beyond belief.
Oh.
He's selling it like, hey, come experience the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And he brings people in there and they see horrible stuff. And yeah.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, Nosferatu is apparently Rotten Tomatoes' best horror movie of all time, or one of them. You have Frankenstein, The Mummy, 1931, 1932, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, 1931, Dracula. That's when we get like Lon Chaney, Bela Lugosi, the heavy hitters of horror. Vincent Price. Around that time or later on? Was he later on?
He'd be a little later, I think. His, the 50s?
Maybe two later.
Because you're still around for the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo in the 90s. So
I'm saying Vincent. I mean, Ellie Stewart, he would have been 60 or 80.
Who?
In the 90s. When was Vincent Price born?
I don't know. Let's look.
Look at that.
When was Vincent?
So moving on from the 20s, we go into the atomic years. So, the beginning of the 30s, like we're getting out of 30s.
1911.
Yeah, that's why I'm pretty
Holy
sure he was
moly.
active around like the 30s and 20s. Like,
Yeah.
dude was old, man.
No
There's a
doubt.
picture of Vincent Price got old somewhere in somebody's attic.
He was iconic, though. So.
Yeah.
Oh, and we know what we got in like for horror in the nuclear age.
Godzilla.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Godzilla, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, The Blob.
Yeah.
Attack of the 50-Foot Woman was my sexual awakening as a like 110%. I'm
Step on
serious.
me.
As uncomfortable as the movie was, 100%. I was like, okay, I'm into this. Whatever that is,
I get it.
that's my sexuality. That's what I like.
Snoo, snoo.
Snoo, 110%. He's stepping on people, and I'm like, you know what? That's okay. That's how I'd be okay with this apocalypse. But yeah, the Incredible Shrinking Man, War of the Worlds. We got H.G. Wells. We got the notorious radio play. That was in the 1953, and then moving in the 60s. That's when like 3D and all that stuff came through. And you get
So when this
Well, if you're going in the 50s, you've got like Creature of the Black Lagoon as well.
So what spawned
Creature
this?
Back
Was it
before that?
was it
No,
the
it's 50s. I just
was it the fascination with the atomic bomb and what?
Yeah,
we were
I mean that's
capable of?
110. Like when you see Japan, like what are their monsters? They're like post Hiroshima, post Nagasaki. Their monsters are created from nuclear fallout. They're nuclear powered creatures that come in and destroy cities. Like, I mean, our horror is built. What we're scared of is built from what we experience, right? I mean,
Well,
you get the
yeah.
undead, you get the
absolutely.
devil,
You deal with your trauma.
ghosts, and
and
hauntings that come up to point out the horrible things you've done.
in 1958, you get the Fly because apparently we're scared of insects.
Oh, well, I mean, it's scientific innovation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's where that comes from. You're getting into the birth of genetics and the birth of like actual,
Mutation
biomechanics and
and-
stuff.
We were terrified of bugs getting in our science.
Yeah, we don't no bugs getting on our science. Well, we were going to space.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to go to space. We were like manning flights to unknown areas, and so everything was kind of on the table, right?
Yeah.
So that was a lot of that.
It is so interesting to think about how our apprehensions about progress and whatever's going on, what we might deem progress, affects our storytelling. Like, I'm sure we're about to see a plethora of movies about AI.
Oh yeah, well we already have like
We
what
already
was
have tons.
what was Megan? This most recent Megan
Yeah.
the doll.
Oh, really? Was that
Yeah.
what that was about? Okay.
And, well, you had I, Robot as well, that Will Smith.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not really a horror movie, but
Yeah. But we're going to see
We had
much more.
Space
I'm sure.
Odyssey. Was the AI
Yeah.
inside the spaceship.
Yeah.
So
So in the
go
ahead.
the Smart House from the 90s. or
Oh,
something like that.
Oh yeah.
The AI controlled house.
yeah.
Well, even then, I mean, you have like people like turning on each other, like the lawlessness of the internet, where without like anonymity, without repercussion, where we can say and do
Yeah.
kind of what we want. And I think a lot of the
Purge?
Purge movies come
Yeah.
from stuff like that, where I mean, some of these people in the comments, like, man, they're animals.
Yeah.
Like, and I saw it today just on like a little Reddit thread
Feral
about
comments.
yeah, about like a Final Fantasy 14 like tanking thing, and this person made a post and they're like, "Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this tank," and people just tore him to shreds in the comments, like just vicious, evil shit they were saying to this person. It's absolutely awful.
That's what all Black Mirror. That's all it is about the
Yeah.
things that we do now and how they turn against us.
Yeah, that's what's scary to me, man. Like the other people scare me the most.
Oh, by far.
And speaking of other people, mindless masses that will tear you apart, since we're in the 60s, we got a lot of schlock, we got a lot of 3D horror in the 60s, but we did get one of the greatest horror movies of all time and the beginning of a genre that just constantly pumps out new stuff, whether you like it or not, and some people absolutely love it. We got Night of the Living Dead. We got George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Hey, those are
Yeah.
decent movies.
We got zombies in
Still
1968.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
yeah.
They're coming to get you,
Yeah.
Barbara.
And then 70s and 80s, we get this massive.
70s, you get the birth of the slasher.
We also get
And Black Christmas,
Really?
1974. It's
I-
credited to be the first slasher film, and then
really
and
about Christmas.
it's kind of it's. I've never watched it
Somebody
myself.
murders
so-
other people during Christmas. That's
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah, it's called Black Christmas, and it's during 1974. It's
Okay.
credited as the first
We're
slasher.
talking about this history stuff. So how did we get to the point of 1974, you said?
Yes,
Being the first slasher. Like, what happened in this era that we went, what if we were, like, just humans killing each other? Like, what was...
I think I have a guess. And I think it's the prevalence of, or pushing for a new, like, the prevalence of the news cycle. More news, more local news, more pressure to fill those voids. And so they're filling in with smaller issues, like people getting killed, people
Okay.
getting, like, what I mean? And I might
Yeah.
be completely way off.
Right, but that certainly had to affect
You know,
it to
but
some
this-
extent.
Like we're approaching into, I mean, we're still we're still in the era of like the sign off at night of the TV, right? Like we're still like, and that concludes our broadcast day, and then it signs off, and then they play the national anthem, and then your TV's dark from like too long. And you still had 3 channels in the 70s or whatever. But I think you're getting more homes had TVs. More homes had access to up to the minute news. You know, television becoming more popular, so you're getting more of the outside world around you, and more of the horrors of the outside world around you, because the news is needing things to report on.
This just in: people are dangerous.
Well, we're more likely to watch what we're scared of, or what should we avoid. It's that cautionary tale, like when we go back to the initial bit of folklore, right? Like, where did folklore come from when parents are telling their, like you said, parents in the Serengeti, don't go over to that hill because there's a big old crocodile over there and he'll chop you up and eat you, right? We're more likely to listen and retain things that could hurt us because we are built like that.
Yeah.
And so when we seek out, you see it on social media, man, and we're not going to get into solving the world's problems, but you see people are more likely to listen to and engage with things that are incendiary.
Yeah.
Or they're fearful of.
Yeah, that's well, that probably ties back into a long time ago with Aristotle's the Poetics.
Mm-hmm.
In the Poetics, the idea was, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I can't get the Poetics off my mind because you mentioned this idea of the blood and the gore. That's a spectacle. It's the least artistic thing you can do, according to Aristotle. But a lot of this, I think, goes back to tragedy and Aristotle noticing that people watch stuff that was an opportunity for catharsis for them. Like people have this feeling that they have to purge from their bodies, and so they watch horror or some kind of unfortunate thing happen to somebody in the safety of their situation, so that they can experience it from a safe distance. So we watch people get jacked up in horror films and we go, oh no, that would be awful, but it's cathartic for us because we recognize that death is upon us at any point. That sort of stuff. It's so cool.
I think that has to do too with kind of why people listen to sad songs to be sad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You just gotta get it out, man. I just gotta cry.
It's healthy, man. It's healthy to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
If you're a person out there and you're like internalizing your feelings, you're swallowing it down, don't talk to somebody. Get it out, because it's just going to eat you up like a cancer. Quit being a douche.
Yep.
Another thing that may have caused the interest in the interest of slashers was Texas Chainsaw came out the same year in 1974, and where it was based on like Ed Gein, and people were just starting to get a lot of like serial killer stuff.
That's
pushing.
the news cycle thing. Like we're doing giant things on Ed Gein and all these.
Ed Gein was huge. There's so much
nipple belt.
so much based on that. Man.
There's no proof that he killed more than 2. They think he did kill more than that, but they only know of 2.
Yeah, but he had skin things in his house.
It didn't
matter how many people he killed. He had a nipple belt. I don't give a shit if you killed nobody.
Which is strange that they couldn't prove that he killed more people. Well, it's like his wallpaper is fledged. I don't know if he killed more than 2.
He's actively killing somebody.
He's going out grave robbing. So there's a lot of those people, they actively know how they died is the thing.
Yeah.
So
I know he didn't kill Mary. Mary died of a heart attack last year, but she's plastering these walls right now. She's half a nipple belt, you know.
He's just like old Bubby driving down the road and he sees a deer on the side. He's like, oh, I bet that'd be great as a belt.
but that's
you make a good belt.
Black Christmas is coined as like the birth of slasher, though Texas Chainsaw came out 3 months prior.
Wow.
Black Christmas came out in December. Texas Chainsaw came out in October.
When was the last time you guys watched the original Texas Chainsaw?
It's been a few years.
It still messes with me, dude.
I'd say probably 3 or 4 years. I can't really watch slasher movies. Once I got, and we mentioned this in like the first episode we ever did. Once I got older than the people dying in slasher movies, and I don't know if it's just it's too much. I felt more sympathy.
Oh, okay.
That's why I can't watch them anymore.
Okay, I was gonna be like, these dumb kids.
I feel more sympathy for the killer. I'm like, I'd kill them too.
I can't do it, especially Final Destination, where it's just like I can watch slash. Like I love the Jason movie. I mean, anything Friday the 13th. He was my favorite because it was kind of had that supernatural twang to it, right? But
full on.
But once I got older than the people dying in the movies, I can't not see them as kids. And so it's hard for me, like violence against a child in a movie has to have a significant narrative purpose. Like, it has to make me feel something to push something forward. That's why I could kind of take it in Hereditary a little bit, but like Final Destination, the slasher movies where it's just, hey, these kids are going to high school, and just because they're kids, they're dumb kids, they're getting killed. It's hard for me to make that separation. And I get that that's kind of weird, right? But it's like, my kids love the slasher movies. They were watching there were new Fear Street ones that came out, which my Fear Street was R.L. Stein Ghosts of Fear Street, right?
Yeah. Goosebumps.
But there were these slasher movies now on Netflix called Fear Street, and it's all like time travel type deal. Like, there's Fear Street 1960 something, 1970 something, contemporary, and it's all like the same story that comes together. It's like 3 different movies. It's really cool.
Yeah, they're actually pretty good.
It's neat.
They're not specifically time traveling. I think one character was.
Yeah, like one character was coming through, but it was it's like a narrative of the same thing that's happening in these different time periods and trying to figure out why. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't, like, Final Destination movies, once I got older than the people that were, I mean, not necessarily older than all of them, but once I got older, I can't watch Final Destination.
What I took from this was anyone younger than Josh is a child.
Pretty much, man.
Well, so where do we go from slasher films?
Well, you don't go much of anywhere. You have to skip just about to the 90s. 'Cause there's some in between, because, I mean, after 74, you get to Halloween, comes out in 79. But you also get The Thing in the 80s. Yeah. So, I mean, that's not slasher.
You get, like, in the 2000s is where we see, like, the resurgence of the stuff I know Cody and I aren't really a fan of, but the torture porn movies. Yeah. Hostel, Saw, stuff like that, where it is gore for the sake of gore. Like, the first Saw was good. The first Saw, like, subverted, Saw
expectations.
Yeah,
Three is where it started going downhill. But the first two were pretty good.
I mean, it's just no different than, like, I would argue Jason. Like, the Jason films, Friday the 13th, the first one wasn't really that supernatural. It was his mom.
The first one was not. Honestly, the second one wasn't either. It was Jason was still alive. He'd been surviving out there. I don't know how, but
well, it's like Michael Myers' Halloween. I mean, same thing until he's at some point you have to give him some kind of supernatural edge because
he's been stabbed and shot and burned and everything so many times. It's like,
I think I added up in the first one. He got stabbed in the eye. He got stabbed in the neck. He got stabbed in the chest with his own knife. He got shot 6 times, and then fell off a balcony, and then just got up and walked away. And if you include the second movie that happens later that night, he gets shot like another 8 times, like stabbed again, and then he gets blown up.
It got better.
So do you think was it the demand and the popularity of the films and the necessity to continue making these films that caused these supernatural elements? I didn't know if it was like that or the thing.
For Halloween,
you got to explain it somehow, right?
For Halloween, for sure. Like, originally, John Carpenter wanted to do an anthology series. That's where Season of the Witch came from. He just wanted to title it as Halloween and have a different thing happen every single movie.
Season of the Witch was the original Halloween 3, for those of you listening at home. Yeah. It's the one with the little kids walking on the cover that you don't see Michael Myers anywhere.
Yeah, it was originally, Michael was only supposed to be in Halloween 1. And then that was just going to be at the end of the story. He got up, walked away, done with that. But it done so well, they wanted to continue. So he said, fine, I'll do Halloween 2, conclude Michael's story, and that's what Michael was supposed to have died at the end. I mean, of course, didn't, but
people were just tossing money at his face. He's like, okay.
And then he said, after that, I'm doing Season of the Witch. And since it kind of bombed, because at that point, they had Halloween 1 and 2, they had Michael in it, and they got Season 3, and they went, or Halloween 3, they went, where's Michael? So it bombed because Michael wasn't in it, because they'd created an expectation at that point.
So of course they had to dig that old boy back up.
But I mean, I think a lot of the sequel stuff comes from, and again, like, this is all just speculation as a fan. Like, I have no claims to know anything about it, but we're very opinionated. So, I think it comes from like, hey, this was successful. We could make more money out of this, and I think we could tell a fairly compelling story. Let's try it. And then it boils down to that was just successful. Let's make another one.
That's where most of the stuff comes.
Yeah.
Most sequels come from. They're like, this made money. Let's make more money.
Yeah, you like money? I like money too. You're blowing my mind right now, man.
I guess we forgot to mention The Thing. I think the original one was in the 50s.
Was it
Because
really?
John Carpenter's was a remake.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
Fun fact.
his was better, but
One of the very few fun facts I know about horror movies. Fun fact that I learned just recently. I don't know if anybody else knew. E.T. was going to be a horror movie called Night Skies. And it was going to be about aliens who had long bony fingers and was killing people with their fingers. Apparently just kill people. And Steven Spielberg apparently changed it at the last minute. And the script that they originally had for Night Skies became The Exorcist.
what?
Surprise! It was something I had learned.
Which is
just
hilarious
recently.
because The Exorcist is based on an exorcism.
I know.
of-
Apparently.
It's based on, I can't remember, the book might actually just be called The Exorcist or whatever.
Really?
But it was written by a priest that was actually there for the exorcism. Well, later he wasn't the original one, and there's a whole weird thing going on there. But they never give you the name of the actual child because he was young. They were trying to, identity protection. So if you ever look it up, it's for the exorcism of Roland Doe or Robbie Mannheim.
Yeah.
And honestly, the story that they give is more terrifying than I think the movie itself.
Oh yeah.
But
Probably.
I can handle that stuff. Dude.
that comes down to other things and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So, but The Exorcist itself came out in 70.
I don't know.
I think it came out in the 70s.
I had it brought up. I think it's in the 70s.
I think it came out in the 70s, and it was movie that was
Huge.
supposedly so terrifying. Like people were puking in the theater and
Yeah,
everything.
there was like 10 people. They said like 10 people went to the hospital, and a bunch of people left the theaters.
Yeah,
because it
that's
was
how you
scary.
sell it. That was the obsession with the devil, right? Like you get The Exorcist, Omen.
Oh my
The
gosh.
Omen.
The Omen came out. Rosemary's
Still
Baby.
terrifies me.
1973.
73. Okay.
Okay, so let's move on from
Based on
horror
1970
movies. We are approaching our hour and a half mark. We don't want to go too far over that, but I want to touch on horror gaming, just for a little bit of kind of trivia here. We're not going to go through the entire history of it, but so what do you guys think is heralded as? And this blew my mind when I read this, as one of the precursors to horror gaming. Like it's heralded or is spoken about as a precursor to horror gaming in the video game. Like the video game that was a precursor to horror gaming.
I don't know about that.
True actual.
There was on the Atari a game called Haunted House.
That's what I was thinking.
No,
But
that's an actual horror game. This is before that.
Oh wow.
Oh.
so-
This one wasn't billed as a horror game. I
Hide
mean,
and seek,
everybody
no.
sitting here knows it. Everybody's played it.
It's Pong.
I bet 90% of our listeners have played it. Space Invaders.
Oh.
Because it is an alien force
alien
that is
invasion.
descending down, slowly marching forward, and it reportedly gave players anxiety attacks and
You know
like
what? I could see
worry
that. Yeah.
about that. Yeah, it involved a survival scenario.
My quarter.
My quarter. And it increasingly destroys the landscape. Menacing sound effects gradually speed up and created a sense of panic in players. I just thought that was really cool. I was reading that on
That's cool.
Wikipedia. But no, text-based adventure games, Mystery House and the Lurking Horror, 1980, 1987. Corey, about Haunted House was one of the first horror games of all time, like actually meant to be scary. We get into horror board gaming.
No, there's plenty.
I mean, really, like, I would throw in the Ouija board in there somewhere, but I don't know if that was like so much horror. Is supposed to be like parlor fun, right? I mean, you got, who was that? Parker Brothers or
I mean, it wasn't
Milton Bradley.
originally marketed as a horror
Right,
thing,
it was-
but
it was the spirit board type deal.
I know we weren't allowed to have one.
yeah,
Yeah, but
same.
that was the devil parent, right? You're gonna bring evil into the room, but that was, and they were sent out as like parlor tricks. So it's all like, subconscious, motor function. Everybody's got their hand on a little planchette, and no one feels like they're moving it, but you're actually moving it around for things.
No, I didn't move it. No, I didn't move it. Did you move it?
I have used Ouija boards in various different situations. I used one at Low Motel in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Used one in graveyards before. Used one in old little haunted houses we thought were supposed to happen. And you know what I've got out of Ouija boards? Jack crap.
Only some of the devil twice.
I've only been possessed
one time.
Unreliable at best.
That boy's busy.
Weirdly enough, my parents were kind of, particularly my mother, was a little progressive. Like, my brother played D&D, the original Dungeons and Dragons, and she was like, that's not that devil worshiping like they say it is, but she was like, no Ouija boards, never. You bring it in the house, you're out.
Well, that's how my mom was. Like, I could sit down, she said, play game, movie, whatever, do whatever you want. Like, Ouija board, nuh-uh. Nope.
Yeah, because that was the thing that was going to bring the ghosts in, the Ouija board.
It's interesting to think about. Like, I know we're Appalachian people. How much absolutely cursed garbage people were doing in Appalachia at this point. But you can't bring a Ouija board in. It's like, I don't know, I killed my neighbor and had sex with my granddaughter and spawned a kid that I gave away. But you know what? You better not bring that Ouija board in here.
There's some...
That devil board.
I traded my firstborn for a sack of potatoes, but you better not bring that Ouija board in there.
Here's your one chance, fancy, don't let me down. Here's your one chance, fancy, don't buy that Ouija board.
Maybe it's one of those, it's like, we got a lot of skeletons in the closet. We don't need no help.
As soon as that's the fear. You're going to open up the Ouija board and it's going to tell everybody about that.
It's worse than the CB rating.
That's old Burl's ghost telling everybody what happened in 1963.
Anyway,
so horror gaming. The Ouija board is just one I wanted to talk about a little bit. I don't even really call it a game. It's just a little parlor thing, but it's got a long and storied history, and I'm sure there's something we could go into about it. But we're just kind of hitting all the broad notes here. It's our first October episode of the first year of the podcast, so we'll hopefully progress more into the annals of horror and what we dig and what we like and all that. And we're going to try to, like I said, put out some more stuff this month pertaining more towards our actual, what each of us individually like horror wise. We want to put out a few extra things in October. Next month, we have an episode about what it means to be a nerd coming out. So hang out and hopefully you're around listening for that. And then hopefully in December...
The only time we ever know what the next episode is.
Yeah, because we actually already recorded that one just due to scheduling deals. But we do have, in December, we should have an episode coming out about FLGSs, and that means friendly local game stores. Where you go to your Friday night magics, you go to your different little meetups to play board games, hang out, meet friends, and buy all the crap that you put on your walls and to show that you're a nerd. And we have a buddy of ours who has been running FLGSs for almost 25 years.
Yeah. Now
it's going to try to join us on that. And we'll be recording that one maybe next month we'll be recording that. Hopefully if schedules align. But other than that, I just want to say thank you all, anybody who's listened to us so far. We are just over 200 total listens. We are in
at the time of recording.
Yeah, at the time of recording this, so August 21st, we're just over 200 total listens, which is a significant number more than we thought we were going to have. We've been listened to in 3 countries, which is just wild.
Thank you, Canada and Australia.
Yeah, Canada and Australia. Yep. Tim, you guys, I know you blokes. Kane. But yeah, it's really humbling to know that people are enjoying the podcast and listening to us sit around and jaw about stuff that we may or may not know about.
Most likely don't, but
we'll
pretend like we do.
I like to pretend like I know.
So we have 3 episodes out currently. The 4th episode's coming out in a few days. Our 4th episode was about cartoons, and you've probably listened to that by now.
I'm a cartoon.
Because we record a couple months before release. So yeah, anybody have any closing remarks about horror and spooky stuff, or anything else we want to bring up and talk about some more? We're right at our hour and a half mark, so we can end here. Or
yep, I'm sure we'll have more information in our small segments.
Yeah, save it for the individual.
I really appreciated what you said about the idea of talk to somebody sort of situation if you have something to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good idea. And something I want to add to that, just some mental health sort of stuff, is like, don't let people tell you what's scary and what isn't scary. So if it's scary to you, man, it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I don't think scary, but that doesn't mean it's not scary.
Yeah. It's like, some people can't get out of the house and deal with like the public, and that's the thing. so just because it's not scary to you doesn't mean it's not scary to somebody. But it is scary to somebody else. And vice versa.
Mom is absolutely terrified of spiders. Dad is absolutely terrified of snakes. I don't really care about either, but I mean, it's still scary to them.
And I hate spider snakes.
Yeah.
The worst. Is
Those snakes with 8 legs.
It's still a snake if it has 8 legs.
I guarantee you there's something like that in the D&D monster.
Somebody in Australia is like, he's talking about the spider snake. He knows.
The Australian.
He's been here.
Oh, right here, the spider-tailed horned viper. Your entire house collectively pooped their pants. Look at that
Oh my
thing.
god.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh. That is straight out of nightmares.
Its tail looks like a bug to attract things. And then
wow.
Yeah, spider tail horned vipers. We're gonna link to that in the show notes. There's just some nightmare fuel. I'll tell you what scares me, and that's not just real quick. What scares us?
We aren't going to leave that for the individuals.
No, we're talking about our favorite horror movies. I want to talk about this. So
Okay.
what scares me?
Silence.
Yeah, like 110. What? Losing my voice, being unable to communicate.
That makes sense.
Like being locked in syndrome terrifies me. Where I had the cholesterol thing, went to the doctor the first time in years. My cholesterol's a little high, everything else is good, so I'm on a little bit of a diet. And I'm not like tremendously out of shape. I'm not like gross fat, but I'm a little overweight.
I am.
I don't think anybody here is like morbidly obese.
Thanks, man.
But
Appreciate that.
despite the stuff we talk about, we are not morbidly obese. But yeah, like that terrifies me. Like heart disease, stroke runs in my family. Like that locked in, not being able to communicate what's going on and just being stuck there is just beyond frightening. It's mortifying to me. Yep. And if you guys want to share your stuff in individual, that's fine, but I just wanted to say that. Get that out there.
No, you guys want to share? Or?
No, I'm good.
Well, all right, so listen to the other episodes to find out what Aaron and Cody and Lee are scared of. All right, so guys, if you want to get in touch with us, if you want to tell us what you're scared of, what's your favorite horror movie, what's your favorite horror novel, what gets you fearful, what makes you listen real closely for the bumps in the night, makes you lock the doors a little tighter at night.
What's your favorite spooky?
Yeah, what's your favorite spooky? Who's your favorite woolly booger? What's your favorite Bigfoot?
To quote Scream.
Who's
What's
your favorite booger?
favorite scary movie?
Oh my god, my grandmother used to tell me she would keep a butter knife in the door, and it's in a little single wide trailer. Draxie Robinson was her name, and she's 98 years. She was my great grandmother. She was 98 years old when she passed, and when she was in her 90s. You know, a hillbilly country one wore a sundress every day of her life, you know. She'd keep a butter knife in the door. And I always asked her, why, like wedged in the door? And she said, let's keep the woolly boogers out. And I'm like, all right. Little me was like, all right, makes sense. Good deal.
I don't see any, so
I ain't seen Nuri one. So I reckon that's good. Thanks, Mama.
Keep it up, Memo.
I can't argue with that logic.
Yeah, you can't. But if you want to get in touch with us and tell us who your favorite woolly booger is and what makes you listen extra carefully for those bumps in the night, you can email us at hillshavenerds@gmail.com. And if you would be so kind, on wherever you get your podcast fix, wherever you're listening to us right now, go give us a like, a follow. 5-star reviews are fantastic. We love them. Or just, any review you feel is warranted of the content you've heard today.
Hopefully good.
All right, and Cody, Aaron, I know there's nowhere anybody can find you other than hillshavenerds@gmail.com. But Lee, where can the good people communicate with you at?
I did such a good job of not plugging.
You did,
I
not
know,
one time.
I'm so proud.
Plug it now.
Pixel Bro Lee on YouTube, Pixel Bro Lee on Twitch, Pixel Bro Lee on Instagram, Facebook, and about anything else. But yeah, I do YouTube stuff about RPGs and video games, so I'd love to have you over there. I'd love to hear anything about the show, whatever you got to share with me. And also, if you like the show, share it with people.
Yeah.
Travis, cut out every one of Lee's plays.
Everything Lee just said, Travis.
Travis doesn't exist. It's like just our own little cryptid.
Put loud music over top of it.
I have here's a little bit of a tease. We may have Travis with us on a future episode.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I love this is the episode Josh was making all these promises that may or may not.
Yeah, I love it. Well, now we know. Like, we have a little bit of a schedule now, and I can say, hey, this is coming up. Stay tuned. Check the channel. Email us. Tell us what you want to hear in these episodes coming up. Ask some questions. Participate in what we're doing, please.
Or just listen. Be happy. And
Yeah,
just
that
go
too,
reviews.
I guess. Whatever.
Listen
No
and be
pressure.
happy. All right,
Guys.
let's close the coffin lid back.
Yeah. Let's get back into what were we in? We were in a coffin. Yeah.
In an abandoned
Let's all climb back into. Are we still in it? Is
Where
it
were
gone?
we? I don't even know where we're at anymore.
I guess it's left.
Is it safe to look?
Us piled on top of each other, sweating profusely, having this conversation.
All right. I'm gonna open the lid and peek out.